In this episode, we're going to be looking at the album Sign of the Times by Prince. Prince Rogers Nelson, born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, was a singer-songwriter, musician, record producer, dancer, actor and director, and widely considered one of the greatest musicians of all time. Sign of the Times was the first studio release following the breakup of the Revolution. I've chosen this album because of its overwhelming popularity amongst fans and music lovers alike. It's also an album I personally felt was leaving a big hole in my music collection. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the show. This is Sign of the Times by Prince.
You're listening to Between the Tracks, a book club but for music. Join the conversation at tracks.show.
Let's Miles.
Not again. Got my chest so creaky.
Sorry about that.
All right, let's go. Come on.
Drink.
Shark attack.
Drink.
Fall on your face.
Drink. Drink.
All right. How's it going, lads?
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
I had a right frog in my throat then.
Did you, Robert?
Hello.
It's good, Carl. How are you?
Fine, man. Doing all right.
How can you not be doing all right after a week of Prince?
I'm doing better than all right, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
The purple one himself.
What a fantastic little man he is.
He is a beautiful little man, a beautiful tiny man.
In a good way. In a good way. Perfectly fine.
I needed this pod today though.
Yeah?
Pod. Yeah.
You had a bit of a week?
Yeah. I've had a bit of a week and I needed to just chat.
Good, man. Well, pick the right place for it.
Yeah.
Shoot some breeze
Yeah.
with us and Prince.
Yep.
And the Prince team.
Oh, yeah.
Been good though, honestly. I've enjoyed it. I can't wait to start talking about it. I
Been
cannot wait.
good, man. Yeah, it is an amazing album. So yeah, well, let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 3 of Between the Tracks. As you heard in the intro, we're going to be talking about the purple one is Royal Badness, the man himself, Prince, and looking at Sign of the Times. This was Charlie's choice this week. Amazing choice, Charlie boy.
Thanks.
So do you want to let us know why you thought of this one? Why this was your choice?
Yeah. It was a weirdly obvious choice for me when I was thinking about the first album to bring in, and I thought of it because I almost felt bad that I'd never listened to the album in its entirety and much of Prince's back catalogue. And I think so many people were like, "Oh, you know this Prince tune?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, of course, yeah, I love that song." But actually,
It's a big catalogue, man. It's hard to have the top and tails of it.
Yeah, but I feel like it's one of those like parts of the journey that you should probably have done already, and I just felt a little bit shit for not of having listened to it.
Fair
I
enough.
just wanted to get into it, and I was even more excited when it was an amazing album, which it was always going to be. But
Yeah, man. It really is a good choice. For anyone who hasn't listened to the podcast before, just to kind of let you know what we do here, it's a book club, but for music. So the idea is that each week, one person out of the 3 of us picks an album on a rotational basis. So I picked the first week, Chris picked the second, and this week is Charlie's. Next week, it'll go back to me. And what we do is a week in advance, we'll give you the next week's album at the end of the episode. You can all go away and listen to it, leave us some comments. We love it when people get involved and send us some comments or voicemails or any of that stuff. We'll bring them into the show and make it a communal thing. We kind of want to keep the podcast as clean as possible without any advertising or anything like that. So we do encourage people to get involved. And we do have a Patreon set up now, which if anyone does want to support the show in any way, please head to our website and you can find that. Which,
help me, I'm poor.
Yeah. Flip us in a quid if you want to.
Flip us in a quid.
If you can.
There is a tip jar. But yeah, this is episode 3 and it seems to be going okay so far. Today we hit 1,000 plays across the 2 episodes so far, which is really
Amazing,
good.
isn't it?
We're really proud of that. Which
Very,
is
very
good.
happy. Very happy. Thank you to anybody that's listened. If you're coming back, thanks for that.
Yeah,
And welcome
seriously.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, thank you for showing love to it. And we've had some nice engagement and some nice reviews. So that's been good. As far as introductions go, my name is Carl Lewis. This is Charlie Fowler.
Hello, Carl.
And this is Chris Bibbidi-Bunt.
A new one every week.
Absolutely. I'm going to run out, aren't I?
No, you'll never run out. Drank.
Throw up.
So, do we want to jump straight in, or is there anything we want to address first?
Can I ask, did you guys listen? Had you listened to this album before this podcast?
In its entirety, probably not. No. I was a real late convert to Prince. Didn't get Prince. I was like, what? I was like,
What?
don't get it. And then I think maybe I grew a spine, I grew a backbone or something, and then it made sense.
You definitely grew some sort of bone.
Hey,
Get in.
All right.
hey, I have after this week.
Very controversial.
Thanks.
So there you go.
And that's our button for this week.
Yeah. And there it is. We blew it all in the first minute.
Are we just going to talk an innuendo for the whole episode?
Yeah.
Innuendo.
Drink.
I had listened to a lot of this album, but never just in passing. I mean, I remember recently, well, when I say recently, it's probably about 2 years ago now. Chris was in the house here with me, and we woke up one day, we had a big night out, and you woke up and for some reason really wanted to listen to Sign of the Times all the way through.
Did I?
It was
Did
me,
he?
you and Mike, yeah. And we woke up and you were like, man, I've never really listened to this album. I just want to play it today. And you did. And that was it.
So I have heard it in its entirety.
Probably,
Bloody
we were
liar.
probably still a bit drunk. So.
Yeah.
So
But I bet it fueled me for the rest of the day. So
yeah, it didn't feel Mike, bless him. He was a rough one. He was having a rough one that day.
he's having a goth hangover again.
Goth hangover, yeah. Shall we get this show on the road?
Let's get the show on the road.
Please
Cool.
do.
So yeah, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming back. This is episode 3, and this is Prince, Sign of the Times.
Sweet mother of hell.
I know. What an opener. So yeah, that was track 1, Sign of the Times.
I can't stop listening to it.
It's brilliant.
It's so
It's mad. It's one of those tunes though, like when you've listened to it 5 times, it's better. 10 times, it's better. Like
It does get better every time. You're
feels
right.
bloody la.
At first, I thought it was too stripped back. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
no, I don't really know if this is going to go anywhere. But then the more you listen to it, like you say, the more it just becomes amazing.
Is that
Yeah.
because we're used to like tracks full of production?
Possibly.
Well, we get a lot of that this album anyway, of like real sparse production, real obscure, weird things happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said a great thing to me earlier in the week. You're like, this album sounds like they recorded it and then mixed it and then played it through a speaker and just recorded the speaker in some weird way. And
It does in places.
a lot of it is like that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that was down to the fact that it's a kind of amalgamation of a bunch of different projects that he was working on. So to briefly preface that for everyone, because it's easily found online and explained a lot better than I can do it. Prince and the Revolution were working on a project called Dream Factory in 1986. Shortly after that, Prince disbanded the Revolution. And after coming away from that, he went away to do a solo project under a pseudonym, Camille, which was a project that he put together and pitched to Warner Records. After a short while, he decided that wasn't the direction he wanted to go in, so he scrapped that album and started working on a bigger project, which was called Crystal Ball, which was going to be a triple album, which was an amalgamation of the Dream Factory stuff, the Camille stuff, and also extra material that he'd put together whilst Camille was pitched to Warner. He was in a process where he was just churning out music left, right, and center.
This sounds correct to me so far.
Yeah. Once he pitched that triple album to Warner, they thought it was going to be too big. They thought it would alienate listeners who might not be able to afford a triple album, because that would be an expensive thing to sell and a hard thing to pitch to press and charts and stuff like that. The best they could do is promote a double album. So he went away, cut down Crystal Ball into a double album, which became Sign of the Times. The whole concept was scrapped, but all the songs remained the same from those, but were just put together into this double album that was Sign of the Times. And I think that's the history, and I think that's as deep as we need to go.
I'll give you that.
Take a breath.
Well done, Carl. Bloody hell.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you took it.
Thanks for that, mate.
It's a hard one because it was such a bizarrely creative time for him. And so to be able to kind of put that down and find out where everything came from, it's interesting. What I do have is a infographic that I'll put into the show notes, which shows you all the 3 projects and which songs from which project made it to the album in its final form. And I know Chris has that information as well. So we'll kind of trickle it out as we go through the album so people can get a feel.
I'll just try and flag them where they are. There's so much stuff going on all the time with Prince, obviously. I mean, he's prolific. Well, there's prolific and then there's sort of Prince. You know, as a mainstream artist, he's releasing an album a year at this point, and he's not releasing shitty albums on the side. He's releasing albums, you know, proper world-beating albums that are considered, you know, the best. I mean, this is the most. I think Purple Rain sold the most, but this garnered the most critical acclaim as far as I could tell.
For sure.
Look that way.
Yeah, and it won like lots of end of year best albums and all sorts in '87. So
Still wins awards now. Like if you look at the
Yeah. I mean, 87 was such a competitive year. It didn't sell as good as it was expected to, but it became such a foundation of his music and such a representation. It became such a massive part of his career. But initially, it wasn't the best-selling album. But I mean, I looked up and found what albums were actually released during that year in 87. And I mean, the competition was nuts. You had like Michael Jackson bringing out Bad, Fleetwood Mac, Tango in the Night, Paul Simon, Graceland, Genesis, Invisible Touch, License to Ill, Whitney Houston's first album, Cameo, Word Up, just endless.
Big one.
It's a competitive year to bring out an album.
Yeah. But he did well, didn't he, our boy? He did well.
Our boy did bloody well.
But the song itself, though, how do you feel about the song?
It was a slow burner for me a little bit in that I liked it, but once I dug into the subject matter and kind of realized the dystopian, reflective, apocalyptic sense of it, that really made it.
I'll tell you what, like obviously the lyrics are very creative and everything, but it's nice this week to actually listen to an album and go, yeah, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. It'll be sex, God, or in this case, a social commentary on what's going on in the world.
Exactly.
I know that when it was made, there was a big earthquake in LA when he worked a lot in Sunset Studios, Sunset Sound, excuse me.
Yep.
And there was a big earthquake out there, and it scared him a lot. And he went back to Minnesota after that, as far as I'm aware. And a lot of what is referenced in this song is directly what's happening on that day. I think when he arrived back.
Yeah, he was finding stuff.
Between LA and then going back to Minnesota, these things in the newspaper were just what's happening at the time. Like the Disciples are a real gang, I think a Minnesotan gang.
Yep.
You've obviously got the AIDS pandemic.
It's worth pointing out on the subject of AIDS that this was the first song ever to acknowledge AIDS.
Wow.
It was something that people were not acknowledging. Like if we don't think about it, it doesn't really exist. But this was the first song to really kind of bring it out.
I love the line about when the rocket ship explodes, everybody still wants to fly, because that was in the shadow of the Challenger explosion, which again is nuts. But it's a great way of saying that no matter how much you've got, people still want more. It's mad. So much things are touched upon in here, but it's all wrapped up in such an amazingly produced song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the bass line, the synthesizer, did you boys read into that? Like,
No, tell us.
He used a groundbreaking Fairlight synthesizer.
Oh, no, I did.
Yeah.
Oh, I did, yeah. I didn't realize that's where it came from.
Did you see what it looked like?
Yeah. Did you see the video of someone demonstrating it?
If you, this is our very first computer. If you press this button here, you can actually create a Cratchit note.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
It's insane.
It's the weirdest looking keyboard and big old computer.
And that's what the bass line was made on.
Most of the track was played on that.
Wow. One of the lines I did like was in the second verse, which is, my sister killed her baby because she couldn't afford to feed it and was sending people to the moon. And it's like such a direct attack on the general economic struggle in America and how that was largely unaddressed by the administration at that point. Like the Apollo 11 mission in 1969 cost $24 billion. Yet there are people who can't afford to feed the children at home. It's like, let's maybe look after this world before we go find another ones to destroy, you know?
Amen.
Yeah. So a brave start to the album. I did a lot of research on this album through a podcast on the album itself, because this was released as like a super deluxe edition last year in 2020. It was made by someone called Andrea Swenson. She also writes some of the liner notes in the new album that comes up. And it's a really fascinating podcast. I would say it's more for those people that want to know more about the other tracks that are featured and stuff that was discarded and things like that.
Yeah, the kind of extras, the album
but
extras.
there's lots of good stuff in there. So I would urge anybody to go and listen to it if they can anyway. It's a little eight-parter of half an hour episode, something like that.
I guess it's worth saying that this entire song, because this is quite impressive, was recorded and mixed in one day by Prince on the 15th of July, 1986, which is madness.
Easily done.
Another!
Yeah. Right, well, let's move on to track 2, which is called Play in the Sunshine, and we'll carry on after that. So this is track 2. That was track 2, Play in the Sunshine.
Kick drum on that track is madness.
Terrible, isn't it? The tiniest little kick drum and the tiniest little drum kit.
You know those like tiny kits you get for your baby or something? And I felt like it was like one of those tiny little kick drums. I was like,
have you ever seen those drum kits that you can buy for your office desk? And it's like a tiny little drum kit and you play it with pencils.
Play with your fingers, yeah.
Or fingers, yeah. Maybe you played it on one of those. I wouldn't put it past him.
That's what he probably could.
A tiny purple one.
What a contrast between the, theme-wise from the last track.
Yeah, I think it's more like the world's going to shit, let's go out and have some fun. I tell you what's interesting that you say that, because you haven't listened to that podcast, have you? Because early on in that, when they're talking to Wendy and Lisa, so the Revolution era musicians and songwriters, they talk about how much fun they were having before the making of this. And Prince would often say to them, look, just bring in anything, just put stuff on it, make it really fun. They're just bringing in weird, fun instruments, toy instruments and stuff. And she says like patty cake rhythms and stuff like that.
Right.
And there's amazing parts throughout this song where they do like at the end of this, it's a ba ba da da da. Who the fuck puts that in a song?
Yeah.
Or they'll put like the wedding march in. It's like, what? Why? But also, why hell not?
And the placing of it is so Prince. After something so dark, like you said, Charlie, going into something like this, it is so fun. One of the lyrics I did want to pull out was in the second verse, I think it is. He says, and the color green will make your best friends leave you. It'll make them do the walk. Now, have any of you guys heard of a band called The Time? Like, I love The Time.
No.
They're like a funky kind of, go listen to The Time, do that. And that was a band fronted by a guy called Morris Day. All the music was written and recorded by Prince originally. When he signed his Warner deal, he was allowed to basically sign artists on behalf of Warner. This band, The Time, that he created, he basically signed them to the label and gave them a thing. And that was an outlet for his kind of funkier stuff.
Right.
Now, him and Morris Day, the lead singer of The Time, fell out over money and it ended up going their separate ways. And The Time had a really good song, which was a dance, and it was called The Walk, was the name of the dance. And so this lyric, and the color green will make your best friends leave you, it will make them do the walk. And the walk is obviously a Time song. So that line, it feels like it directly addresses the Morris Day thing and him leaving him. And that's kind of how they fell out. So I thought that was a good lyric because it's one of the only times he addresses that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
Did any of you guys watch the live version on the concert film?
Yeah.
My God. You know, when he's like doing his spins, he's got amazing dance moves, hasn't he? The whole gig. He's
one of the best stage performers
unbelievable.
Ever. You know, he's like the perfect Frankenstein of your kind of Jimi Hendrix, James Brown, George Clinton, all these different famous just frontmen.
Yeah.
He's just amazing live, you know, and he does call out that he takes a lot of inspiration from those people, especially James Brown in his performance.
Incredible. And has to be mentioned, Sheila E., his MD, new MD, I believe, at this stage.
Maybe, so she was brought in for the Love Sexy band after the Revolution.
After the Revolution, yeah.
MD being?
Musical director.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah.
She is also the drummer in the band.
Yeah. But yeah, must mention, if you watch the live concert, this song, because obviously he even references, you know, drummer in this tune.
Yeah,
and she absolutely tears this song apart.
She does, man. Like, yeah, I mean, they're a fantastic band. We'll probably call all of that out as we go through because there's so much to say on just how incredible that formation of the band are. And so I have more to say about The Time in that relationship, but I'll get to that after the next song, which is called Housequake. And it's worth noting that this was originally from the Camille album and ended up on Sign of the Times. So this is Housequake.
Housequake. Housequake. You gotta rock this mother. Housequake.
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 Let's
That
go.
was track 3, Housequake.
What a flex I thought this was. After firing the Revolution, he actually again played every instrument on the track.
Instrument, yeah.
And I was thinking, oh my God, like, you know, you've just been sacked as the Revolution. You hear this and you're like, God, he can actually, obviously he could play anyway, but I thought this song was amazing. The groove on it was insane.
There is a lot of that, obviously, of him recording and playing everything himself. But for that reason aside, this sounds quite live. All of the songs on this album sound live, which is...
This album is in my notes for this track. This album is a performance album.
Yeah.
The whole thing in my mind, I just imagine the live performance of it, which is probably why they made the whole live concert film.
It might as well be.
Yeah.
It might as well be.
But it's amazing. Like, I thought, you know, Susan Rogers, who was his sound engineer for this album, and I think for a few albums, right?
For a lot, yeah.
For a lot of them.
She's one of my personal heroes after researching this album.
She's amazing, isn't she? She said about this song, she said, it came at a time when there were other changes in his life. His musical instruments, his style, his colors, and the people around him were evolving. It's only my guess, but I think Housequake represented a new idea in dance music for him.
Such a good tune, and like the brass lines
Sick.
are insane. They've got so many like Rick James and James Brown vibes, and it's all very kind of Yeah, just funky, man.
It's so James Brown, isn't it? The way he controls the band, all of the like.
Yeah, he calls them all out.
I feel like
Even though it's him.
yeah,
Yeah, and he does literally those, like James Brown would always famously include calls to the band in his lyric, like he was making it up on the spot. And in this, like, especially in the chorus, it changes in each chorus. He says, and the saxophone is the fault, check it out. And the saxophone will do a lick. And in the second chorus, he goes, and the kick drum is the fault. And the kick drum will play. And it's like, he's doing that, controlling the band. And like in the outro of the song, he goes, we're on the 2, y'all. The drummer's going to tap. Now, James Brown, if you listen to any interview with Bootsy Collins, talking about how James was.
It's Bootsy, baby.
Bootsy, baby. And he would always say that James Brown was always on the 1. He would be like, as long as the beat's on the 1, I can work. It just everything has to be on the 1. And when you listen to his music, it's all on the 1. If you count the 1, you've got it. And he says, we're on the 2, y'all. It's like he's almost addressing how James Brown he's being, but saying, whereas James Brown was on the 1, me and my band are on the 2. And it's really cool, man.
What this made me realize is that I struggle most with the songs that sound like they're from this era on this album. So this sounds like it's from them.
Yeah.
The samples and like the horn stabs and stuff.
Yeah.
They sound like this era. And I think I actually struggle a bit with that. Not to say I didn't enjoy it, but this people love this. Like this gets a great reception.
This could be in my top 3 songs on the album.
Is it?
Yeah. Like I'm a massive kind of Rick James fan and all that funk, like real funk, and James Brown is a massive. I'm a massive fan of his.
Yeah, you used to go out with the crushed velvet on down to the club.
Yeah, basically down to the Tesco's.
Yeah,
I used to put all that on. I used to have my hair in a curl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's you, yeah?
Exactly, that's me. That's pretty good.
That's not bad for a first attempt.
Bloody good one, bun.
Wow.
How's that?
Get in, boy.
Pretty good, man.
Let me just do one more thing with Daphne, who I mentioned before. I'm calling her Daphne as if I know her, but I just need to get her
With your
name.
mate Daphne.
Daphne Brooks again, because she just sums up a little bit about the Camille persona.
Yeah.
So obviously he took this on, like I think Camille would have been, another 8 songs for the album. So he took that on wholeheartedly. I think it even got pressed. I think all of those
100 copies got pressed for promo. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Imagine what they're
distributed.
worth.
You can still find them, and they are worth a fortune. Some of them have been auctioned off, and it's ridiculous.
So she says, in terms of genealogy, you already mentioned George Clinton anyway. So she says this is sort of like that persona is playing with like P-Funk, but through, she says, Afro-futuristic characters, through technical calibrations of vocals. So, running that vocal through and speed shifting and things like that. And I'll say it. It allows Prince to occupy an expansive, heterogeneous, polygender universe.
Yeah.
So dealing with all types of sexuality and all gender. That's what he's tapping into.
Yeah. The Camille persona is described in one of the tour brochures to be a boy. So he is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he is given a gender. And I didn't find that for ages. And then someone in a forum had given the entire, it was on the back of a tour program brochure.
That changes everything.
Yeah, and it basically is like almost a poem about describing Camille. The way in which he got that sound was that he would slow down the recording. So he would record the instrument, slow it down, sing in his normal register over it, obviously in a different key, and then speed the whole thing back up. And that would how he'd get that Camille effect. And that was a persona that he would go into.
Yeah,
I wonder if he sped it up by the same amount every time. Do you think Camille as a artist was pitched at the same?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
It was. He described
I
it
don't
as,
know. No, I don't know, because I think he sounds more. I think it sounds more convincing later on in the album.
Oh, possibly, yeah. Maybe it's all down to the tempo of the song. Like maybe it's only going to be half speed because of the tape. So maybe he could only do it if the song was at 120. He could only half speed it to 60. So it would be slightly different. But he did describe Camille as an alter ego.
But again, we take all of this for granted now. As we talk about all of this antiquated equipment, I know what that machine was called. It was called a Publison or Publison Infernal Machine. That's what it was called.
Inferno?
Infernal Machine.
Infernal.
An infernal machine.
Sounded very French, pun.
Yeah.
Can you say that again?
Publison.
Bonjour to our French listeners.
Like, bonjour.
Bonjour.
You said you went in and looked up the Starlight as well.
Oui.
These aren't like plugins on a
DAW.
program, on a DAW. They're like things you got to wheel in, like proper things. That Starlight is noisy as hell, and it takes like probably 12-inch floppy disks or something.
He would leave notes in the studio. So he would be in there working on writing a song, and then would leave like a post-it note for Susan Rogers to then come in the next day, and it would be like, I want the piano setting up, and I want this setting up. So he would write a song, and then when he's coming in to record it the next day, she would have to have everything ready. So whereas nowadays it would be just a computer with some VST instruments, she would have to actively, and he would have to think in his head, what do I hear on this song, and have it ready the next day.
That's super cool. But I feel like the whole album, in a sense as well, like he's kind of done whatever he wants. I know he's connected to what's going on socially and everything, but I feel like he's just written an album exactly how he wanted to write an album. And, you know, if he's in this bubble that he's created, and I feel he's got ultimate creative freedom to make these hugely contrasting tunes from all kind of different perspectives, all kind of different characters and alter egos. And
yeah, I mean, he had a good sense of freedom with his creativity. You know, the label tried to stick their hand in, and he would always kind of bite it. We won't get into the whole Warner dispute because that happened a bit later, and so we can, you know, that in itself could be an episode of just talking about his battle with Warner Records. Well, shall we move on?
Yeah, let's go from one that I couldn't connect with into one that maybe is one of my favorites.
Wow, so this
he's only gone said it.
All right, well, let's move on. This is track 4, The Ballad of Dorothy Parker.
Oh yeah,
Dorothy.
Dorothy laughed. She said, it sound like a real man to me. You're kinda cute. You wanna take a bath? Bath? Oh, I said cool. I'm leaving my pants on. You say, 'cause I'm kinda going with someone.
Not in Kansas anymore.
Get out of it.
Get out of it.
Get out of it. That was track 4, The Ballad of Dorothy Parker.
So
top 3 for me. That's
top 3.
Chris's top 3.
It is amazing, this tune. Interestingly enough, as you both know, he actually wrote the name Dorothy Parker into the song, but didn't know that it was an actual person or who she was. And famously, she was a mid-20th century writer, famous for her wit. And it's kind of quite serendipitous that...
I don't think he knew that, did he? At the
no,
time?
He didn't know that.
Yeah.
That, hey, actually, the parts where he's talking as Dorothy, she's got some good wit about her in the lyrics. And it's just really...
Happy accident.
Happy accident, indeed.
Serendipitous.
Happy little accidents. Happy little accidents.
Good word to bring in, serendipitous.
Yeah. I was scared about saying that.
Was you?
Yeah.
You smashed that
I've been
in one.
warming that up all day.
in the mirror.
Literally in the shower this morning.
What was it? What was the word, Charlie?
Serendipitous.
Drank.
So I'm going to go through the story of the recording of this one because it's quite interesting. This was something that was described by Susan Rogers. If there's any kind of audiophiles or sound engineers listening, there's a kind of full story of this in technical detail on the Red Bull Music Academy, which I will add a link to in the show notes if you go to our website. It's really interesting. To nutshell it, there was a studio being designed in Prince's house, and Susan was designing the whole thing. And at this point in the process, they were having the desk installed, which was going to be a custom-built desk for the space, and everything was supposed to be amazing. And Prince, the guy was still installing the desk, and Prince was so eager to use it, he told Susan to get rid of the guy who was installing it and just be like, it's fine, let's just go. I need to write, I need to work. So they put him on a plane and literally got rid of him. Prince immediately walks into the studio and starts recording The Ballad of Dorothy Parker. And in the first playback, Susan stood behind him listening to it, and she's like, oh shit, that literally has zero high end or anything. It's all just very boxy. And she's like, what? I hope he doesn't notice. And she's looking at Prince and he's jamming away. And he finishes writing the song and leaves happy as Larry and goes out the studio. And she's like, right, now's me time to investigate. And she looks into it and realizes the desk, one of the power supplies isn't working. So the desk is only at half power. And that's why this song has a kind of subdued, low dynamic range, not very high fidelity sound, is because the desk was only at half power. He came down the next day and he said, this desk sounds a little bit dull, doesn't it? But I quite like it. And she was like, well, I got away with that one. Because that's literally like, you wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of him in that situation if he just recorded this. If you want to get more into that, I will post the link. So I'm going to leave it just right there.
Yeah, she explains that in voice as well on that podcast as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's good hearing her.
She's my hero, man. Like, I really got into that whole down the rabbit hole of Susan Rogers, and she's such an inspiration if you're into audio and all of that stuff.
Imagine being that keen to get in and record something. Imagine being like, I can't wait.
I think he's like, of all, classic creative thing of like, when the inspiration hits, you can't wait for it. You can't be like, okay, well, I'll get to that later. Like, I think he'd written a song and was like, sorry, this has got to happen now or never, like using the toilet.
Cool. Oh.
Well, I said this is my favorite song. One of my favorite songs. I don't think it is my favorite, but
Yeah, you said top 3.
I love the sound of it. I love how dry it is.
So did he.
Yeah, he clearly did. I love the subject matter as well. There's such funny, like Prince seems like he's a witty old chap, you know, like the stuff about him taking a bath, like he gets invited into the bath with Dorothy Parker. He's like, cool, but I'm leaving my pants on because I'm going to go home with someone. So you imagine him with these purple leather trousers on.
He's there with his hair immaculate, with his hairy chest and a pair of leather slacks on.
I just love the whole subject of the song. I love the way it sounds. I think the drum sample or the drum rhythm that's been programmed is amazing.
There's acoustic drums on this song, and he plays them. He plays the drums in a lot of the songs, according to Susan Rogers, with no click track.
Oh, she
So
mentions that.
plays.
Yeah.
He just plays. He sits down and plays. Imagine he just puts the lyrics in front of him and just plays what's in his brain with no click track, and then builds the song around that.
Right.
So if you were ever trying to tap the tempo for these songs, I'm sure it'd probably be right on the nose, but it should be all over the place.
Mm-hmm. What's good about this song as well is that it gives me a chance to talk about Joni Mitchell, because Joni Mitchell comes up a lot in inspirations with both Prince and Wendy and Lisa as well. And again, through that podcast, it gave me a great opportunity to listen to a couple of songs that really sound like Joni Mitchell. The songs are called Visions and the other song is called Colours. It sounds like Hey Gira era Joni Mitchell, which has got Jaco Pastorius on it. So it's got that, you'd know, Charlie. So we're talking fretless bass, real jazz influence, lots of weird clashing chords and stuff like that. There's some amazing stuff on the reissue that occurs there, but we're not really talking about that. But Joni comes up a lot, and the reason I'm talking about it is because she's mentioned in this song. The line is, and it was Joni singing, "Help me, I'm falling." What's amazing about that is the way he sings that is exactly the way that Joni Mitchell sings "Help Me" in her song "Help Me." It's like,
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't heard that song, we'll add it to the playlist for this episode.
it's so clever, and like the whole instrumentation and like the major minor thing switches up. It goes into a completely different feel to talk about imagining hearing this Joni Mitchell song while in the song itself. It's like this diegetic sort of.
Yeah, it's a story within a story, isn't
yeah.
it? It's really good. Yeah,
Very, very cool.
Diagenetic, is it? Or
Well, I said diegetic, and I'm pretty sure I was right the first time
yeah,
round.
yeah, no, you're right. I'm just
No, I
saying,
might be wrong. I'm joking.
but that is the word for story within a story, isn't it? Yeah. I have
Yeah.
to put that
I
one
give
in
me
there.
a serendipitous.
To go back to your pants in the bath quote.
Yeah.
In verse 5, it actually gets good because he says, "My pants were wet, they came off. She didn't see the movie because she hadn't read the book first."
I know.
Which is such an impeccable metaphor, man. He's a legend for that.
Oh, she hadn't read the book first. Talking
Yeah.
about my dick.
Talking about my wiener.
Jeepers.
Yeah, man.
Flawless, that song for me. It makes me smile every time I hear that song.
It is great. It's not one of my favorites, but it's undeniably a great song. Everyone good on that one?
Indeed.
I reckon so.
Alrighty. This is track 5, It. That was track 5, It. For any budding producers out there, I reckon, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, please, I think that the kind of stabs in this song were on a Roland JV 1080, which I did have a kind of software version of that I was playing with. So that's why I think it's that.
Not having that.
Did you play on this, Carl?
Yeah, this was actually me, flying under a pseudonym, of course. Remember I told you about me with the curl in Tesco's getting the Hummer?
Oh, of course.
It was around that
I
circa
see.
then for me.
Lovely string stabs, mate.
Thanks.
Really
mate.
lovely
Yeah,
playing
yeah.
on this.
Yeah, they really lifted the track there.
Yeah, if anyone wants to watch my masterclass that I haven't made in how I recorded on this song, please get in touch for my PayPal details. So this song's about getting it on, isn't it, really? That's pretty much all I've got to say is it's about getting it on.
It's getting it on.
Jeepers. The vocals are super varied in the production, I thought. If you actually, I was like, wow. That was weird, wasn't
He was
it?
probably making love while he was recording it. So
Yeah.
he was like, well, I can't get that close to the mic because I'm too busy.
It's just
making this
funny.
person's
Like, I
strange
think that when you're making an album, when you're mixing and mastering it, I think nowadays there might be a precedent on where you set the vocal above the instrumentation. And I feel like this is just not taking that at all. It's just super buried within there.
His vocal performance is amazing in this, I think, and it's a shame that it is quite buried. It's the saving grace for me on this, because I can't get on board with this song. This song I found really, really difficult. It's probably the song that I would skip.
Yeah. Unless it was Valentine's Day.
Well, yeah. No, I don't know. It sounds like
Controversial.
It sounds like if you get into bed at the end of the night on Valentine's Day and you put this on, it's going to be a really angry session. More than one of those, probably.
Yeah, maybe.
But it doesn't, for me, it sounds really unresolved. It doesn't sound like it's in a comfortable area. And those stabs, there's something in me viscerally that has a real aversion to that one sound.
Sorry, Carl.
It reminds me
non-taken.
Any N64 owners back when that was a thing. Mario 64, I'm sure.
Oh my God, yeah.
Do you know? There was if you got attacked by someone or something,
it would make that string noise.
And then one of those big block things would go like that. There's just a real.
When they do that, right?
Yeah, there's just a real aversion in this song. My brain just can't get.
It's so funny you say that, and you're talking about his vocal performance and how good it was, but it's buried. I was thinking that obviously the lyrics are pretty clear, you know, what the song's about, but because of the way it's delivered, I couldn't help but feel it probably is coupled with like a darker side to it. I feel like there must be a darker side to this song from his delivery and the way he delivers his vocals. That's what I took out of it anyway.
Yeah, he embodies so many different characters in his writing and his performance that this can be delivered as a kind of song about just having sex, but it's quite lustful and almost like deviant in the way that it is. He's very seductive in a borderline too much way. So maybe it was some of that.
That being said, if you think about a color that this song sounds like,
So we'll say it on. We'll go 3, 2, 1, and we'll say it. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Purple.
What did you say?
I went for purple as well.
It's a purple song.
It's a purple song, dumbass.
Orange.
I've got orange, yeah.
What are you doing on Valentine's Day listening to this song?
Eating oranges? Don't you eat oranges? Isn't that what you do?
Terry chocolate oranges.
That was like half-time oranges during the session? No?
Purple and orange, that'll do.
Maybe we should bed, Dior.
Purple and orange.
You just propositioned me on air.
Yeah.
Maybe we should bed.
Is that how you ask?
Fucking hell. No, I prefer to mate.
Oh.
Right, that's enough of that. Let's move on. This is track 6, Starfish and Coffee.
Starfish and coffee, maple syrup and jam, butterscotch clouds and a tangerine, a side on a ham. If you set your mind free, baby, understand.
Yeah, all right. Okay. That was track 6, Starfish and Coffee.
What do you think then?
I love it, man. I think it's really fun. He talks about food on this album quite a few times, like laying his orders down. But yeah, this song has an awesome backstory, man. I love what this one's all about.
I'll take it if you
Will
want.
you do it for us, Chris?
Yeah. This is about a real person, apparently. Cynthia Rose. That's her name as well. The name remained.
Don't wear it out.
That's what she was like. She says that later on in the song. Cynthia Rose was a real person that Susanna Melvoin went to school with, apparently. She described in the podcast, she described her as being an autistic savant, actually.
Yeah, I assumed as much. I didn't listen to the podcast, but I assumed as much.
So incredibly smart, incredibly interesting. Favorite number was 12, I think, and she would always ask what her favorite number was and be surprised when people realized it was 12 because she had a real obsession with the number 12.
She did. However, that does change in the song.
Does it?
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't.
In verse 1, she says her favorite, the song itself says her favorite number was 20.
Oh, yeah, it does.
And what it is that on the way to school one day, Susanna was sat on the bus away from Cynthia. And Cynthia kind of lived in her own world and didn't really interface with the outside world too much. And she turned around to Susanna and said, "Do you want to know something special?" And Susanna was really excited. So she waited for Cynthia off the bus and she came out and said, "Want to know what my favorite number is?" And it was always historically 12. So she was like, 12. She was like, "Nope, 20." And then just walked off. So it changed to 20. There you go. Anyway, carry on.
Pulled that rug out. So the Starfish and Coffee, the title of that is about what Cynthia Rose ate for breakfast.
Hang on, Chris. Hang on.
What?
How old is she in this?
I think she's in 6th grade.
So
11.
This young girl is slamming espressos before school.
Is that what she's doing? Oh yeah, of course she is. Oh, it's America. They probably drink coffee out there all the time, don't they?
Starfish and coffee.
It wasn't Starfish and Coffee. It was Starfish and Pee-Pee, which no one seems to know what Pee-Pee is. Anyway, that I've found. I mean,
Pee-pee is urine.
yeah, but she's, you know,
Who says urine, by the way?
What'd you say? Pee? You can't say pee.
Oh, yeah.
It's pee-pee.
No,
say
but-
we,
no,
innit?
but-
Piss, we.
what I mean is the way that she would have said it doesn't mean that she's had starfish. So starfish, I can assume, is some product or something. And then the pee-pee element probably isn't pee-pee.
Yeah.
You know, it's supposed to be good for you. What do I know? You know,
Maybe.
Keep it in the
Maybe
fridge.
she lives in a desert.
Keep it in the fridge. Take the edge off. You know.
Yeah. Does that take the edge off? Is that a
Well,
voice of
probably.
experience?
Well, no, you know. Yes, I drink my own piss. Whatever.
All right, fine. Well, at least we've got to the bottom of that. Carry on.
Anyway, so Susanna brings this into the studio. Well, no. Prince asks her about this story because it's something that they would always talk about. Ask her to write it down. He takes it away. Just asks if he can modify the starfish and pee-pee into Starfish and Coffee. Comes back with this one probably a day later. I
Yeah,
suppose.
it's probably about a couple of hours. He was like,
Yeah.
listen, love, you put the kettle on, and by the
Yeah.
time you've made that, make us a plate of starfish and pee-pee, and by the time I get back, I'm going to have you a track.
Yeah, and that's how it was. And yeah, she knew about the song apparently, and I'm sure would have been very flattered.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than starfish and pee-pee. At least
Yeah,
they gave her
it
that.
is,
yeah.
And it's worth mentioning that Susanna did get a writing credit on this song.
Yeah, she did. There's not very many credits on this song.
Not many
but-
very people who get a credit at all out
Yeah.
of Prince, but yeah, she
Yeah.
got one for this, which makes total sense.
Yeah,
But what a cool insight into this little girl who would never have had a clue that just being the way she was and just being so kind of beautifully out there as a
Yeah.
person would eventually turn into a Prince song. It's
Yeah.
so mad.
Amazing.
and written so naively as well, almost like that very simple,
yeah.
simple piano line and stuff. The piano line weirdly reminds me of "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time." Don't know why. I think the sound must be the same. No idea why. I mean, Britney's in the news at the moment anyway, so go and do your bit with that anyway.
I wish I had a It's Britney Bitch sample.
Yeah, it is Britney bitch. And
Sorry, Chris, you go.
oh no, you go.
Oh,
me.
sorry,
Oh,
bud.
bro.
I was going to completely change the subject.
Oh, excellent.
I can't chew, bro.
I was bored of you, boy. Hidden.
No, I was just going to say, like we mentioned before, that it sounds fun, childlike,
Yeah.
not silly, but nursery rhyme like.
Imagine if this was a B-side to Play in the Sunshine.
Well, no, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
They're the same. They're cut from the same cloth for me. You know.
Yeah.
Imagine having the power musically and songwriter wise to just hear a story like that and be like, not just go, oh, that's a great story. I'm going to remember that forever. I'm just going to nip downstairs and make a banger that's going to be on one of my
Yeah.
biggest albums ever.
And you know your hero Susan.
Yeah.
She says that Prince is so good at turning life into music rather than trying to reshape life so that it would serve his music.
Yeah.
So
So it's
instead
quite
of-
literal
Cool
with
quote.
his
Yeah, so
translations.
instead of making something interesting enough to write a song about, he could make the music itself interesting enough
Yeah.
to exist as a song.
Yeah, the music almost punctuates the lyric in a lot
Yeah.
of songs, especially like, to fly back to Sign of the Times. There's a moment in that where he talks about the hurricane ripping off the church. And at the very end of that line, there's church bells in the song.
Right,
He
right.
really he punctuates his lyric with music and instruments.
10
and stuff.
points to anyone that can name the term for that.
For what?
When music reflects lyrics.
Serendipitous.
Literally. No.
Ooh.
Bon, this is one of yours, man. I learned this from you.
If it's onomatopoeic, then
No.
You learned it from me?
Prosody.
I've never ever said that word in my life.
Yes, you are.
Prosody.
Doing my head in.
That
Okay,
doesn't even,
so
that's, not
quick
even a,
enough.
that's not even a word.
Basically, prosody means when musically the music reflects exactly what the lyrics. So if, for example, the melody is going up in pitch, the chords will go up, the register as well. So it's called prosody. So
Get
whatever
on.
the music is doing, whatever the lyrics are doing, the music follows, and vice versa. And that's
Right.
called prosody. And there's a lot of it in this record.
I tell you what.
Oh, I mean, that couldn't have gone any better in terms of flow and of
God, my
yeah.
youth-
Did you make that up then? Did you give him that?
Never heard that in my life.
My useless facts have gone out the window. Welcome to really, really good facts. Cool.
Nice. Well, I mean, on that absolute bombshell.
I've got one more for you.
Oh, go on, mate. Go on.
Shortest song on the record.
Oh, he's
Oh no,
ruined
let's
everything.
get out of here. This
Drop the
is this is
beat.
track 7, Slow Love.
Young is the night. It feels so right.
That was track 7, Slow Love. Boys, if you don't mind, I'm just going to take this moment to address my future wife. If you're out there, I haven't met you yet, but if you're listening right now, this is going to be our wedding song, baby.
Wow.
It is. I'm going to dance my first
You
dance
can't
to this.
put that on the dance floor with all your family and stuff watching.
Everyone, yeah, no, I
My
can.
word.
And I'm going to bring the cowl back and the crushed velvet suit. I'm going to be there, man. There's going to be smoke. It's going to be choreographed.
It's going to be the most awkward first dance ever.
That makes no sense. Why are you wearing clothes while listening to this song? You just told us to take all our clothes off now.
Sorry, I asked you to both give me a second while I address my future wife. That bit's over now, so please leave that memory. If you're out there, my love, get in touch. Leave us a comment. Don't forget to subscribe and join the Patreon, and I'll find you one day.
Do you want me to unfilthy the minds of our listeners?
Yeah.
There's one thing we missed.
When?
No, before. The best thing about the entire album's the thing about Starfish and Coffee.
Oh, go on.
I apologize to the ghost of Jim Henson.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
You did.
Starfish and Coffee features on The Muppet Show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Was
and
it called
it's
The
so
Muppet
good.
Show?
Well, there was The Muppet Show.
The Muppet.
And there was Sesame Street, but it looked like it was The Muppet Show. And it's amazing watching Prince jam out with all
It's
these
incredible.
Should we just tell everyone that we had to cut that because of the tandem words we're doing?
We just had to cut that because me and
It
Bunce
was
had
too
this-
funny that Chris,
Oh.
Chris and Charlie both said incredible at the exact same time.
We both said incredible at the same time.
There we go.
It's funny.
What I was going to say is that the video reminded me of Space Jam, which is a weird shout, but it had just similar vibes for me. I don't know why, but it transported me to a happy place.
You've got the
Music in you.
music in you. You've got the cartoon characters in Space Jam,
That's probably it.
and then you've got Prince bumping around with some mops dressed up as thing. There's a great bit when little what's the rat called in the Muppets? Is it Rizzo? Rizzo the rat.
Let's go with it.
He goes to talk to Prince because Prince is the artist formerly known as Prince at this stage. He's like, yeah, but and he's about to say Prince, and then instead he turns around. He's got a post-it note of Prince's sign on the
Oh,
back.
that's amazing.
Rizzo, man, oh, he's so funny.
Talking of Space Jam and basketball, have you ever seen the Chappelle Show sketch of Prince? And he's like, I think it's Charlie Murphy, and he's around at Prince's house, and he challenges him to like a game of basketball. He's like, your best guys against my best guys. And Prince, they all get like the full gear on, like basketball clothes.
He's like, we should be playing shirts and blouses.
Shirts and blouses, yeah. And Prince's guys like all come down, and it's like Prince in a full crushed velvet suit with big heels on, and they absolutely ruin them. It's great. Should watch it, man.
Slow
Anyone who
love,
hasn't
slow
watched
love,
that,
everyone.
Anyway, Slow Love.
Slow Love, yeah. Back to Slow Love.
This is one of your jams, isn't it, though? Seriously, Carl.
Seriously, man, this is one of my jams. It really is. It's. I love it. I mean, the horns in this song as well.
Yeah, the sax is
Like
insane.
saxophone player Eric Leeds and trumpet player Matt Atlanta Bliston, throughout the whole album, amazing. And in the live show, in the live concert film, just
Incredible.
absolute heroes, man. It's so good.
Another change in direction, isn't it? This song.
It is, but it's not a change in direction in the grand scheme of Prince. He was so good at these kind of love ballads. In an interview with Matt Bliston, the trumpet player, he describes how like when, because Prince played every instrument, but he couldn't play brass. So when they would come into the studio, he would make the noises that he wanted with his mouth, and they would just put it down. They would play it on the instruments. It was so amazing. The song is credited. There's an interesting kind of story behind this in the whole Carol Davis situation with it and her being on the track. So this song is listed in the credits to have been co-written with Carol Davis. Something that I have an unofficial statement that says that this song was entirely written by Carol Davis. She wrote the song, and it's rumored that Prince wanted to buy it from her. He offered her $25,000-ish for the track, which she declined. And basically, he instead offered her a 50% share of the writing instead. And that was kind of a rumor. But what I did look at was Carol did record a second version, her own version of the song. And in the writing credit, it's just credited to her. So if she did co-write it 50-50 with Prince, she would have to list him as the co-writer on her version as well, regardless of who played on the track. So that kind of leads into that rumor, which is an interesting one.
Ooh.
So crediting is an interesting thing on the album anyway, because Eric Leeds says that Wendy and Lisa, even though they're not credited on anything, writing-wise, he said that they're probably due some of that as well, before the Revolution was disbanded and dissolved. I know that when the album came out and they were only listed in the credits as a thank you, basically, they were completely devastated by that. They're just listed Wendy and Lisa, thanks to Wendy and Lisa, buried within the rest.
Some of these songs were written at the time for the Dream Factory album, which was a Revolution album. Prince did actively try to mix out a lot of Wendy and Lisa's parts in the songs.
Right.
Yeah.
This song, I was going to mention earlier, actually, but we sort of went off on a tangent. But Prince did love working at Sunset Sound before Gilpin Road Studios was born and operational. And again, we take for granted these things, but when they were collaborating across large distances, the whole reel would have to go in a hatbox and be flown over to whoever's
If only the postman knew.
Oh, can you imagine?
Like, you wouldn't,
Absolutely mad.
if you, like, I mean, call me bad-minded, but if I was a postman arriving at Prince's studio to do a pickup and you got the masters, you'd be like, this is guaranteed to be something mental. You'd have to like maybe send it to a friend's house and then post it from there.
But also he did it with spare ribs as well. So
yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, maybe.
So it wasn't always just like, I got one from Prince. What is it? Oh, it's
just a spare rib again. He's
can't sell that.
It's a decoy rib. Yeah.
But the Prince in the studio, I'd have loved to have seen anyway. Like, there's all these stories about like get a bed flown in instead of sitting on a sofa or anything.
Yeah, he was just he was the absolute diva. Man.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but this song is such a great slow jam in there.
It is.
Like,
It is.
you forget, like, you've got these ideas of what slow jams are and where they came from and where they belong. But there's a couple on this album that are just so inherently sexy, really.
Yeah.
And that's the most unsexy thing that I've ever said, but it is that, It's I'm
For
sorry,
any female
but
listeners,
so
Chris
sexy.
listening, or male for that matter, there you go. That's crispy and sexy as ever.
that's me in a nutshell.
This is track 8, Hot Thing.
Hot thing, baby, you dance so good. Hot thing, baby, I knew you would. Hot thing, tell me what you see. Hot thing, when you smile.
Fuck off. What was that?
It's me mixing.
Is that you doing
It's
it?
me mixing.
God, that's so good.
It's right in it.
Bloody hell, give us one more, mate.
Whoa.
Well, God, mate. All right. Well,
Juicy.
that caught me off guard.
That
I was in the Revolution, but I got sacked off.
Oh,
yeah. I
no.
replaced you with me stabs. That was track 8, Hot Thing.
Can I just say something that's probably going to piss every Prince fan off?
Go
Actually, I
on.
probably shouldn't, but when I first heard this, I was like, it sounds like a 90s TV show intro. Like Biker Grove or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, here we go.
Something that could be on the Earthworm Jim soundtrack.
Yeah.
I get that though. I get all of that, all of those video game vibes. Like,
Yeah, it's
at the
aggressive.
end of this, do you know what I wrote down? Do you ever play the game Road Rash?
No.
Road Rash is like a motorbiking game where you race on a bike in a race and knock them off, like beat up your opponents
Oh,
with
I
a
did
chain,
play
with a
that.
chain and with a bat and stuff.
I did play that.
That bit-
Wow, man, you've just unlocked a
know.
memory in my brain.
That-
Oh my God.
The bass in this, at the, like, especially at the end where you've got that sort of like slap bass, it's Road Rash to a T.
Such a funky bass line. I don't know if it's programmed or played, but I mean, in the live show,
It sounds programmed, but
it does. But in the live concert film, it's played and it's just.
did you watch that well, obviously you watched the whole thing, but this performance in the live concert film is amazing.
I mean, Prince is like, so many things happen, but yeah, it's brilliant, man.
It's so promiscuous, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you've got Kat just giving it loads at the start, like she's like.
Kat as
holding
well.
onto the fence.
The funniest move I thought in the whole video is when she licks the microphone stand.
Really?
Oh, it's
And
great,
I was
yeah.
just thinking like, oh my God, I can't think of anything worse than going in like a sweaty old venue and licking one of the mic stands in there that's probably been knocking around in sound engineers' hands for like 50 years.
It's probably safe to say that on that production, they might have had a new set of mic stands every single day, man.
I'd like to know that, Carl.
I'll find out. Also, on the subject of Kat, Kat and Prince, in the concert film when they play Housequake, there's this moment where it's like the aftershock, and Kat is like gyrating around the back of the stage, and she gets to one end of the stage, and like Prince is looking around for her, and then from nowhere, he's in the middle of the stage, and she moves over to the left of the stage. And from nowhere, he just comes sliding in on his back, like grinding in from the complete side of the stage. It's such a weird cut, but it's one of the funniest bits of the whole thing if you watch it.
Oh, Cat Glover, for those who don't know, because I don't think we addressed it just then. She's like the on stage. She's the dancer on stage. Does some of the acting within that Sign of the Times video.
Yeah, she kind of choreographs all the dancing
Yeah.
that goes on. Yeah,
Is
She's,
she actually singing BVs as well?
she's doing the hype. She kind
Yeah.
of she does sing a bit of BVs, but she's more just like getting the crowd going. And
Yeah, not sure she's credited as a backing vocalist on the album. Not sure, might be wrong.
no, I don't think so.
But she's also the person who is on the Sign of the Times single. She's holding a big heart in front of her face. And really funny story about that is that, and I love imagining this, is that after she just joined Prince and this became her role, she was called by Prince's dad.
Right.
And she's like, and he was like, Kat, please tell me that's you and not my son on the front.
It was a whole thing. Like,
because I think my
Amazing.
son's gone too far at this point.
there was a whole conspiracy by the entire fan base that was him in drag at the
Yeah.
I mean, and he's got the body for it, man, as well.
He's-
It could
yeah.
easily be him.
I'd love imagine a body like that.
Yeah, I mean, he was like, he would have had to share because he's got a hairy chest, man. He's like,
Yeah.
he's a grizzly dude. Anyway, a lyric I did pull from this, which is an interesting anecdotal thing. In verse 3, you've got, hot thing, maybe you should give your folks a call. Hot thing, tell them that you go into the crystal ball, which is a callback to Crystal Ball, which
Yeah,
was the original
yeah.
kind of 3-disc album, triple album that he pitched to Warner. So this song was obviously written in that period when that was a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, all of that stuff to one side.
Yeah,
Let's
let's-
move on to track 9, which is called Forever in My Life.
There comes a time in every man's life he gets tired fooling around, juggling hearts in a 3-ring circus.
Track 9, Forever in My Life.
That's a weird sounding song though, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Production wise.
Everything about it. I'm not going to lie. It's probably my least favorite on the record.
Is it?
Yeah.
Now, I will take that comment and I will
Yeah.
tell you to
Do
go and
one.
look up the the reissue and go and find the other version of it where there is more acoustic guitar on it, like there is on the live version
Mhm.
that's on the Sign of the Times concert film, and to hear where the backing vocals are supposed to be, because I don't think either of you know that those backing vocals, through a mistake in the studio, are a whole line in front.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
No
and it sounds so
way.
weird and so uneasy because they're not in the right place.
Right, because I thought that
Wow.
it was done on purpose and it was almost like singing in the round where one line
Yeah.
is sung before
Yeah.
and then the next one and it all kind of makes sense.
Nah, it's in the wrong place. That's why.
Wow, and you just kept it.
And they kept it. Yeah.
Wow.
If you listen to the other version, the other version is really sweet. It's almost like a Beatles song. It's like a Paul McCartney thing.
Well, that's
Yeah,
the
I reckon that would
second-
make all the difference. If I'm
Yeah,
honest.
but that's the second happy mistake on the album, assuming Dorothy Parker was a happy mistake because
Yeah.
they kept that mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because the
maybe
acoustic guitar features literally in the last like 4
Yeah,
bars
another,
of this song,
another
right?
weird thing just to put
just
on
to
the
put it
end.
in, yeah. And
But-
in the show, in the live concert show, he's there with the acoustic kind of on his back, pulls it out at the end, plays literally 2 bars on it, and then that's it. It's gone.
Yeah.
It's like, man,
Yeah, no, the whole song is completely different when you hear the scrapped version.
Mm.
And again, that's his decision to do that. Like that thing existed and it wasn't put on the album. It was put on the album like this for a reason.
yeah.
He's playing with all this sparseness, and I think some of this is him. I don't know if he was how he felt about hip hop. I think he was quite shocked and surprised by when hip hop and rap became started entering the lexicon in the mainstream,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe felt quite at risk because of that. I think,
Yeah.
and he says something. I haven't got the actual quote, but he says something about like the future of music becoming just bass, drums, and vocals. And I think some of this is a conceited effort to address those things. Be like, look, I could make this sweet, sugary song, but this has happened. Like, you know, the vocals are in the wrong spot. But what happens if we just like embrace it like that? It's hard for me. It makes the backing vocals sound particularly bare.
Well,
Yeah.
they have like 0 reverb on
Yeah.
them as well.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
dry.
They're so dry.
But I loved it. I loved that it's quite awkward and it takes you off guard. But I really like the way they are. I
Yeah.
saw that as a creative choice and enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's certainly bucking the norm. Like,
Yeah.
but again, who else is going to do it but Prince? Like,
If anyone's going to hear something and be like, "That's completely wrong," let's roll with it.
yeah,
That's like that again. Just shows for a major label artist to have such creative freedom to just be like, it's wrong, but kind of like it. Stick it out and see if the kids like it.
but when you hear it, you're like, fuck, you just that's like a really pleasing, easy song that you've just thrown away. That would have been like,
Yeah.
people would.
I need to hear that other version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Prince does this all the time, especially in this album. There's moments where there's a line or something, and you're like, that is such a like the hook in this, like da 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 da. That's such a hook.
Mm-hmm.
He could have laid that into every instrument, and that become almost the focus of the song.
Could have been a massive
Yeah,
kind of pop
and it
single.
wasn't, and it's like, well, fucking hell, like
That's Prince for you, man.
Yeah.
Anyone who does want to hear that version, if you forget about it, don't forget that we'll make a playlist of all the songs we reference in the show.
I'll make sure it's in there.
And that'll go into the show notes. If you go to our website, you'll find it.
And what's the
all in
website,
there.
Carl?
The website is www.tracks.show. If you go there, you'll find a link to the episode, which will take you to our actual website, which will have all the show notes, all the different stuff that we talk about linked in there.
You want me to give you some shit trivia?
Shivia.
Yeah, of course.
This is JFK Jr.'s first dance song.
Is
How
it?
about that for
Whoa.
shit trivia? And I can only assume it's that version too.
Are you-
La, da, 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 da,
Yeah,
Wow.
I know that's a. I mean, you wouldn't have gone for that, would you?
Absolutely. No, I would have gone for slow. If you're listening, please just call me, please, something.
Give him a break.
Just give me anything. All right, this is track 10. You got the look.
You have.
Track 10, You Got the Look.
With our Sheena Easton.
Sheena Easton got
Beauty.
to number 2 in the US charts. Was a pretty big one for this album.
She's got an amazing voice, hasn't she?
She does, man. It's a great duet, and the video is really cool as well.
Wasn't supposed to be a duet though.
No, she just came in to do backing vocals, right? And then he kind of liked the vibe they had, which was an awkward one, and it became a duet.
Turn an awkward vibe into a hit song.
Prince
Yeah.
had an awkward backing vocal into a song, you know?
But
That's
he
the thing.
wrote a few songs for her, right? Before she actually.
I don't actually know.
I don't either.
I
But he
think
wrote
this is
a lot of
true.
songs for a lot of people.
I wish I could back that up with actually what songs they were. But I believe that Prince wrote at least one song for her before she came into the studio. Hence why she came into the studio in the first place.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Because
Makes sense.
I think this one was a Sunset Studios recording, and she was recording in a different room. And the engineer at the time, and I forget his name, was looking after both sessions. And I think he was in the studio with Prince and was like, listen, there's this other girl in this room doing sessions.
Shall I throw my concept out the flipping window?
No, bring it in.
That was my concept.
Oh, no, that could be, they both could be true. I don't know. I don't even know the guy's name, so I could just be making this up on the spot. But as I was led to believe, it was the engineer that kind of recommended this.
That makes
person
more
to come in.
sense.
But who knows, man? Who knows?
I can't tell if I really knew this song a lot from back in my mind from being a kid or something, or if it was new. I mean,
it has a familiarity to
it. Does, doesn't
Yeah.
it? It really does. And if it was a hit, then I guess it was a hit. So
Yeah, it really reminds me of, well, it doesn't really remind me of it, but it gives me Billy Ocean, Get Out to My Dreams vibe in the way it's put together. I think Get Out to My Dreams was recorded in 87 and came out in 88. So very similar timelines. So who knows who's inspired who, but and if that happened at all. But yeah, that's one that I'll put in the playlist for this one.
definitely has a Prince sound for me though. There's a moment on this song that that lead guitar and probably with keyboards. I think he always tracked guitar solos with keyboards alongside it as well. I couldn't find out too much about his actual recording process. There's not too much on it as far as I can tell, especially with recording guitars and stuff. I had this discussion at home with one of my housemates, Matt. He was asking about whether or not if he's a sort of a straight into the desk person instead of through amps. And I think he does do that. I found just a short bit in an article, but the way he does track things and record things is always quite interesting. And that sound again is another thing. It's like that sounds so Prince that I don't know where else it could appear in who else's. Maybe it could in something like Funkadelic or something like that. But it was undeniably Prince.
Yeah, it is. And this was a kind of, he has an interesting reference in the first verse where he says, one of the lines is, color you peach and black. At this point, this album signified a change in look, if you will. Everything up to this point was the whole purple. Everything was purple. He was the purple Prince and all that. And this was a kind of signified moment where he changed that. And I did read somewhere that when the tour was announced for this album, the dress code was peach and black for the audience. He wanted everyone to kind of turn up in that dress code and stuff. Interesting.
But not Dr. Fink, the keyboard player.
Dr. Fink will be dressed as a doctor as always. Yeah, it's amazing. If you watch the live, anyone who hasn't seen the live concert film of this and is a fan of the album, go watch it, because this album completely came to life for me when I watched that performance. Because it's just amazing. It's so well done and so well put together. It didn't all happen live. It was I think they wanted to originally do it live, and Chris told me earlier that the reason they didn't do that was because the footage was too grainy from the tour, so they kind of reproduced the whole thing.
I think apparently as well, he wasn't happy with some of the audio. Some of the parts weren't to his.
Yeah, a load of it's overdubbed as well.
Yeah, maybe the recording was done. The live recording was done in a live environment, but the video itself is from, I assume, hundreds of takes, and the best bits were cut together. So it doesn't always line up perfectly, but that wouldn't make it as good. You know?
This song itself, there was apparently a lot slower. This was something that Prince worked on a lot. He wouldn't normally do that. Again, this is told by Susan Rogers again, that he would normally work on a song a lot. He would normally shelve it, but he worked on this and transitioned this into a much faster song. The drums are just sped up. That's why they're higher than they would normally be, and it became this. It's like a really energetic pop monster. Really, this song, isn't it?
To imagine someone like Prince, who is notorious at shelving songs and the vault being so full of songs that would never see the light of day. To imagine a song like this, something that was so successful for him, to have never seen the light of day if he was just in a different mood that day is mad.
I assume this is the last song that was written for the album, because this is the only song that doesn't appear on Crystal Ball.
Yeah, so this is the only new song written for Sign of the Times. Everything else was pulled from the projects that were already done before.
This feels like a song that is a little different to the rest to me. Maybe I'm imagining it because I know that, but there's something about a different energy in this song for me.
Possibly the fact that it's a duet.
Yeah,
it kind of takes
of
Prince
course.
off
Yeah, I
that
guess
main
probably.
spotlight.
Yeah, but I don't know. It seems more rigid than the rest.
I feel like it feels more of the time and what everyone else was doing.
Right.
I feel like it
Of
was
the time.
Yeah.
There you go.
He's so diverse in his writing style that this can be out of character for the album and not out of character for him. So
Yeah.
you never really know. But
It's just down the line, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just does what it says on the tin.
but it's a great pop song, man.
But you say it's doing that pop song thing. If you look up this song, he'll talk about it being similar in the way that Addicted to Love by Robert Palmer was a thing, where, it was written for a friend, apparently, who would only ever dance to songs that they were familiar with, and he wanted to test the waters on that and write a song that would be unknown to that friend. And apparently the friend didn't get it until it was released and
Until it was
charted.
in the top 10.
Yeah.
As soon as it was in the top 10, he loved it.
I like that, proving a point. Right, I'm gonna have to go and write a top 10 now, aren't I?
Yeah.
Oh,
God.
you know what I'm like? Oh.
You know me. Yeah. But yeah, it is a contrast to some of the rest of the album, but it was also one of the songs that made this album in its time more of a hit. I think it would have suffered in terms of sales if this song wasn't on it. So a good last minute addition, I would say. So yeah, let's move on to track 11, which is called If I Was Your Girlfriend.
If I was your girlfriend, would you let me dress you? Help me pick out your clothes before we go out. Not that you're helpless.
Track 11, If I Was Your Girlfriend.
Complete banger. Complete banger.
Great, isn't it?
Here's one. I thought the slap bass in this is flipping amazing.
It's so good, isn't it?
God, it's just so pocket and lush.
Yeah.
It reminded me, and this is quite funny itself, of Larry Graham, who invented slap. Essentially, it's exactly that kind of like really old school slap technique. But up until now, I've been calling him Larry Graham, and I just realized that's what Americans call him.
American would call him.
But I didn't realize his name was actually Larry Graham. Well,
so, Larry Graham.
Larry Graham.
Yeah, he's a bass player for Sly and the Family Stone, and I've got that written down here as a reference point. There's a riot going on. That album, which is really dark, really doped up. There's a big heroin vibe on that album. Anyway, that's one of the references I had here, and it's so. This song's so sleazy. I think this is number one for me.
Is this the one?
Yeah, this is the one.
Fair.
It's a good song. It wasn't the one for me, but it's got to be top 3.
Top 2 for me.
It's interesting. Like, this is another perfect example of the Camille alter ego of Prince.
Yeah.
This is one of those tuned up songs again, where it's that alter ego voice. And this is probably the most prominent version of that voice. This makes it most notable, I think. But such a good effect. And for it to just fit in the album, to come up with a complete alter ego with a different voice, but it still fits in the album. It's still undeniably Prince, regardless of what he's done to it.
I love everything about this song. And I love it because this song sounds the most contemporary of the lot, I think.
Yeah.
This is a D'Angelo song.
Yeah,
You could drop this into a D'Angelo album. You could brush it up a bit. You could apply some more modern recording techniques or whatever, or sounds. And it's basically that. The only difference is now that someone will play with really lazy drums, probably. That's it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
too much hi-hat.
But it's the same thing.
In terms of subject matter, I think a lot of people see this as a love song and something quite sentimental, but I mean, it's pretty much, I thought it was a song about jealousy. It generally outlines Susanna's relationship with her sister.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
That's what it is, though.
Yeah. And I think that's him kind of wanting to get as close to Susanna as she is with her sister, and being like, well, if I was like your girlfriend, as in like your friend and stuff, would I be closer to you? Would I get to do the things that you do with her? And I think it's a very jealous song and comes from not the most sincere of places. And again, the amount of personas that he embodies, you can just hide behind those. This is Camille talking. Yeah. Now, this isn't Prince.
Well,
so
exactly.
You can't hold him to rights on that.
Exactly. There's some, the one problem that I do have with this song is the ending, but it's a persona anyway. So there's some things that Prince says.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've got them written down, but he starts doing the sort of monologue. We don't have to make children to make love. We don't have to make love to have an orgasm. Your body's what I'm all about. And he goes on about, like, he's almost begging this person to take their clothes off. And he's like, I'd take my clothes off for you. I'd dance a naked ballet for you.
It's obsessive.
It's
stalkerish.
It's obsessive. It's obsessive. That's the weird part of it. But it matches the vibe of the song.
Totally.
Random
fact, Beyonce and Jay-Z, in 2002, they released Bonnie and Clyde, and they featured a few lyrics from this song.
Did they?
Really?
Yeah.
There you go. Inspiration down the line. Timeless.
But all of this stuff, like, even when we get up to here, we've covered so many bases with the song so far anyway. This feels like a song that hasn't appeared on the album yet. Like, in terms of its influence and the stuff that was coming up. Like, I love this just because it sounds really, really timeless.
There's a great cover of this by the Eels as well. I don't know whether you heard that.
I didn't.
I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, it's really good.
But I did hear the TLC version.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's your R&B modern influence.
Well, that's what I mean. I was like, this sounds so much like this. Surely someone like D'Angelo or something has this credited. And I went and heard the TLC version, and it's more brought up to date. Ironically, sounds a bit more dated now because of the way that time works.
Yeah.
I thought what was most interesting about that, and we've just done You Got the Look as well. We've just done Sheena Easton. Yeah. And the way that Prince writes so prolifically, as well as for himself, he writes for other people. And if I could see an alternate universe with Prince, I would love it if he became like a super producer and started writing all these songs.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Can you imagine?
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Like, imagine if this song was then repackaged in 1999 for, I guess TLC was probably around then anyway, so that's doing them a disservice. But imagine some of these songs being brought up to date. And
or even if he was just still around to, like, obviously he remained a releasing artist in his own right up until his sad death. But if he had stepped away a little bit and became more of a ghostwriter for different artists, I mean, the power he could have in that situation, in all these different fan bases of people, it would have been so powerful.
Like, imagine if, like, he did what the Neptunes did or something, was this powerhouse producer.
Yeah.
And just brought these Prince-like ideas.
He could have even not consciously done that and just given 100 songs from his vault to people, and they could have all been massive songs. To call back to Charlie's point, referencing Beyonce and Jay-Z featuring some lyrics from this, they definitely took it. Well, she definitely took inspiration from this. I think this is purely a stretch because she brought out a song called "If I Were a Boy" in the mid 2000s, and that's definitely a kind of contrasting thing. And then you had with Justin Timberlake, who brought a song out called "If I Was Your Boyfriend," and it has a similar vibe. And so this is obviously echoed through the time, definitely into that late 90s, early 2000 pop world. So, like you said at the start, with the this could be a D'Angelo song or whatever. It definitely has echoed through the timeline more so than a lot of other songs on this.
I love it. I would never skip that one on the rotation.
Now, in terms of us describing that song as a little bit kind of intrusive and jealous, let's go into something that solidifies those themes, which is track 12, "Strange Relationship." That was track 12, Strange Relationship.
Cool tune.
Yeah.
This was written with Alicia and Wendy, right? I believe.
Yeah, so this was originally a Purple Rain era, so circa 1983.
But I think, and we talked about it before, but I think Prince buried their parts in the mix again on this tune. So I think it was backing vocals again, but I think some other parts of them actually playing instruments is buried in this song.
Yeah, so this was this song was originally on the Dream Factory, which was a Revolution album. And Wendy and Lisa featured on it heavily and were mixed out of it. He reclaimed the track for Camille. So a lot of that cutting of those two was done for Camille. And then the song was brought into Sign of the Times. So again, features that pitched up Camille persona.
This is the only song that actually gets credit on all of those three albums that we were talking about.
Is that right?
Yeah. Because obviously it hits the Camille thing. It's being written from that persona, but it's early enough to be on the Dream Factory record.
Isn't it amazing to see the journey of a song like that through the through line of a song.
To go right back. And it throws a spanner in the works in terms of who a lot of these love songs are written about, because
for sure
at that point in time in the Purple Rain era, Susanna was not really on his radar in terms of in a romantic sense. Prince had a lot of proteges because of his deal with Warner, where he could essentially bring artists to the label. And at this point, he was seeing a girl called Denise Matthews, whose stage name was Vanity. And so it's said that this song was written about her. The track was sent to her on a tape, actually. And I don't think she was too happy to hear it. But basically, she was, at the time, dating other people while she was seeing Prince. And this was Prince's attempt to draw her back in with absolute desperation.
Can't help but feel like that would be the ultimate way of getting back at someone, isn't it? Releasing like a song about them. I always think that.
Yeah. It's such a weird song, man. It's so creepy and again, so possessive and so manipulative and sinister and like the weird song, man.
But again, that's written in that persona. So
yeah, weird from Camille's perspective. Yeah, no, that's again, it's such an interesting vehicle for expression, having multiple personas, because no matter what you say, it just can't be held against you. But yeah, the chorus, you've got like, baby, I just can't stand to see you happy. More than that, I hate to see you sad. Honey, if you left me, I might just do something rash. What's this strange relationship? So it's like, I really don't want to see you happy without me, but I really don't want to see you sad. So if you leave me, I might do something rash. Read into that what you will. What's this strange relationship? So it's almost like he's acknowledging how weird the connection is between the two of them, but is being so manipulative and emotionally blackmailing. I mean, this is essentially a domestic abuse description in terms of how he's manipulating this other person into coming back to him.
Mm-hmm. But all done to a four to the floor beat.
Yeah.
But all done with four on the floor.
Which light feeling tune.
Like we said earlier in the episode, it's like, it's really hard it's only when you start dissecting these songs that you realize the themes, because with Prince, you can very easily just listen to it and be like, yeah, man, great groove. This is a tune. It's only when you dig in and find the themes. And I think it's hard to separate those sometimes with him.
Mm-hmm. But a middling song for me. A middling song for
sure.
Me. It's interesting in its use of the sitar, because that comes through the Fairlight as well. That was them accessing new instrumentation.
Oh, by the way, the Fairlight was $26,000.
Small fry.
At the time?
At the time.
Bet you that's worth a lot of money now. Not that one, because that'll be worth millions, but those in general.
Yeah, isn't it so funny though? Like the sound of that are obviously amazing, but guaranteed you probably could get that on your phone now.
The funny thing is you look at these things being used, because it looks like an amazing bit of kit. So you've got all of these discs, you've got this light pen that you can use against the monitor to draw in waves or edit the waves that you've sampled with.
Really? That's pretty advanced.
It's nuts. It's really, really nuts. And I look at it, I'm like, wow, wouldn't that be an interesting thing to have? And then I'm like, yeah, but I don't have the patience to sit and use something on like an app that does the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, can I be in a room where that's the only thing making, like, humming and making a noise and kicking off a load of heat? And
like, imagine you invented that instrument and then Prince started using it on a lot of tracks. You'd just be like, oh, thank God for that, man. We're finally going to recoup this, because it must have cost millions to develop an R&D.
But that inventor is the person in that video. I think he might be Australian. He comes in, he's like, he does this thing, and the host is like, oh, that's cute. And I'm like, what do you mean that's cute?
Patronising bastard.
You prick. You've got to sit at it, and you've got like keys, and you've got your monitor, and then you've got the console, and then you've got like everything that runs all of that on your other side. And
have you ever seen those YouTube videos of that guy who's like invents useless machines? And it's like he'll be taking like a nap or something.
Oh, I have seen that. Yeah.
And like it's this massive convoluted machine that goes all around his house, and like Takes about 15 minutes just to like tap him on the head to wake him up or
Sure.
something.
Sure.
Reminds me of one of
I
those.
mean, if you can do it, you know?
Great.
So we're in Jealousyville now in this song.
Yeah.
And then we sort of, we straighten up a bit next because Prince has a crisis of confidence or something because...
Yeah, he has a crisis of confidence or he has an acknowledgement of self, but we'll probably talk about that in a second. So let's move on. This is track 13, I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man. Track 13, I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man. And I couldn't take the place of your man. Not that kind of guy.
So this ends side 3. I know that much now that I've got my ducks in a row.
Now that you've got your shit together.
Yeah, and this feels
Ducks
like
in a row?
Yeah, I've got my ducks.
Have you never heard that?
No,
Get your ducks in a row. Get your ducks in order. Get your ducks in a line.
You need to get your ducks in a row about
I think I might.
Getting your ducks
idioms. Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. If you don't mind.
You're an idiom.
I mean, you come in and bring in that word that, saying that I've said it.
Serendipitous.
No, the other one.
Oh,
You said-
prosody.
Yeah,
Stop arguing.
and you know nothing about ducks.
What's that saying when it rains? Ducks will be happy. That one?
Oh my god!
Did you
what
just
is
make that
wrong with
up?
you?
No. Oh, the ducks will be happy.
Nice weather for ducks.
Oh, that's it.
It's raining ducks and cats. Anyway, right.
Right. Anyway, track 13, I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man.
I'm up. I love this one as well.
I do, man. It's so good, so poppy, and it gives me like summer out in the streets vibes. You know?
Yeah.
That's why I had a reference for this as Don Henley, Boys of Summer. It's in no way related. It pretty much sounds nothing like it, but the feeling that song gives me of like absolute summer, just like nothing, there's not like
Not a care in the world.
not a care in the world, nothing's going to get me. This song does date back to Prince's sessions in the late 70s. The only reason I know that is because on the deluxe edition, there is a version of this dating 1978, I think. So let's assume he wrote it around that time.
I think it's a banger. I think it's like a power pop, like
It is until
Yeah.
about 4 minutes in, and then it completely
Yeah.
changes into that like bluesy,
Well-
like breakdown. So good.
yeah. We can split that into two really. First of all, people talk a lot about similarities between Jimi Hendrix and Prince. When referencing all of these things, Carlos Santana came up a lot.
Okay.
And that,
Yeah.
like, if you go into these like extended jams through Santana records, like, oh, okay, the feeling is more there than that heavy blues stuff. It's more influenced by South America, that sort of thing. There's that, but also alongside that, if you go back and listen to Sticky Fingers, the Rolling Stones album, you've got Can You Hear Me Knocking? At the end of the song, it's exactly like this. It's exactly
Really?
like this. Yeah, it's all of those things, but again, it's a live song. That sounds like
It does sound very live.
It sounds like it's just caught live, and they've just cut the audience out. It's mad. I love it. It's so power poppy, and it's like a rock song. It's like a
Yeah,
rock song.
it is quite rocky. It's that rock that wasn't rock at that point in the 80s,
Yeah.
where it was like, kind of guitars were brought in with a bit of distortion.
Yeah, like if you think of like the Knack, like My Sharona,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that
yeah.
sort of like real poppy, but with a rock element. Like
yeah. In terms of lyrical content, I mean, the loose outline is that he's in a bar. He meets this woman, he goes up and offers to buy her a drink or whatever, and she says that her partner's left her. She's already got a kid and she's pregnant with another, and Prince asks her if she wants to dance. And she kind of wants to get closer to him and kind of offers to go home with her or whatever. And he's like, listen, I mean, I'm pretty much only good for a one-night stand. I'm never going to be able to be that person to you,
Be your
as
man.
as in father your kids and raise your children for you. I'm more just out for a good time. So I could never take the place of your man is kind of what he's saying to her. So interesting storyline to it. It kind of now refers back to the more Prince that we know of, being the kind of ladies man, in and out kind of guy. Take that.
yeah,
as-
but also from a humbling side position.
well, it's
you know.
better than Strange Relationship. In terms of how he put himself across.
It's definitely a lot more wholesome than that, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like, maybe I'm here if you fancy it. It's like that.
yeah, but it's also quite weird because he
That's
says
the
like,
name of my biography.
what was
The
that?
name of my biography. I'm here if you fancy it. Go on.
Yeah, same for me. Also, if and again, love of my life. If
Just
you're
a shout out.
just reach out.
Chris's biography is being released next week. It's available on all of your major book buying websites.
Thank you.
It hasn't got to Amazon yet. They've said no, but we're working on it. Yeah, so really good song. It's again in the lyrical content. There's a moment where he's like, he gets tears in his eyes when she says that she'd rather die or whatever, and like, yeah, it's really sad.
Your idea of Prince is one of the way that he writes his music, but I always get the impression that he's also a very sincere. Like there is a tenderness to Prince that sometimes you miss in the sexually charged songs, I think. And
there is, yeah. I mean, he's everyone, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's every side to every person ever. He's always in and out of different ways of being. And, you know, he was brought up quite a religious man.
Mm-hmm.
And then later in life, obviously, I think it was around 2001, he came out as a Jehovah's Witness. It was interesting because Wendy and Lisa from the original Revolution band wanted to get back together with Prince to do a kind of celebration concert, which I think they wanted to do in the year 2000. They were hopeful that it would happen, but they told the Minneapolis Star-Tribune in 2004 that they thought Prince would say yes, but he didn't. He declined because of her homosexuality and the fact that she's half Jewish.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, she was told that Prince wanted her to give a press conference denouncing her homosexuality and announcing that she was converting to Jehovah.
Wow.
She said, I was like, I guess we'll never hear from him again.
Shit.
Wow.
I mean,
So
that's...
chew on that while we listen to a song about religion. This is track 14, The Cross.
Black day, stormy night. No love, no hope in sight. Don't cry, for he's coming.
Track 14, The Cross.
What an ending.
What an ending.
What
massive.
What a harmony at the end of that.
Oh,
Yeah. And just how it builds, man. It just builds up and up and up. And it's so powerful. You just like, if you're sitting down listening to that song, you're standing by the end of it with your hands over your head.
You're proclaiming... Oh, we're back to religious territory with Manchester.
After
Oh,
Manchester, if
here we
anyone
go
hasn't
again.
listened to episode 2, which was Manchester Orchestra Mean Everything to Nothing, if you want to be absolutely brain melted by us trying to read into religious themes, then go listen to that one because it's the journey.
can I give you a religious theme?
Go
For a
on.
minute. He's talking about the cross. He never refers to Jesus in this tune. It's always seen
okay.
as a cross, which is quite interesting. But I read something and I thought it was quite interesting, and it was that the cross that is the instrument of Jesus' torture and death is also the figurative instrument of salvation, as in people are always, wearing crosses around their neck
Mhm.
and everything. And I thought it was really interesting that
Yeah. Yeah, I
the
mean, that is always
representation.
that is in general an interesting symbol for Christianity.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I said, loosely based on this.
I mean, it's a
track,
piss
but-
take if you're Jesus
If
Christ.
you're Jesus and you come back and you're like, listen, everyone, hi, I'm back for the second coming. Just before we start, what the fuck are you doing with that
Why-
religion neck, dude? That's yeah.
I can turn water into wine. Why isn't a wine bottle my
Yeah.
bit?
Yeah, I know you all drink booze, but
Or if you bloody choked on a bit of turkey, someone would be wearing a bloody necklace with a little bit of turkey on it.
yeah, I mean, imagine.
turkey.
But yeah, we all have our problems, some big, some are small. Soon all of our problems will be taken by the cross. So it's like, this to me was a nice call and answer, and it's a good position on the album for me, because in track 1, Sign of the Times, when he talks about the state of the world and all the problems in the world and all the things that we're dealing with, poverty, war, drugs, just issues. And then in this, he's like, we all have our problems, some big, some small, but they'll all be taken by the cross. So it's like, it shows some element of hope in contrast to that song being so dystopian and stuff like that.
You know what he started singing when he became a Jehovah's Witness? Do you know what he changed the words to?
In this song?
Mhm.
Oh man, tell me.
It wasn't the cross anymore.
Is
What
this
was
real?
it?
Are you going to
It
say?
was the Christ. Fuck, I'm going to have to quickly look that up because that was just something I read really quickly. I'm certain that's the thing.
This is what Sheila E. wrote, his MD, musical director. She said, when I first met him, he believed in God, but after that, there was a time when it seemed like he didn't believe in anything. But then he became a witness, and I felt for him that believing in something was better than nothing.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's fair
I
enough.
feel like that's what this song alludes to, really.
Yeah, believe in what you want, and he obviously converted faith, but under a similar umbrella. But yeah, so this song is a religious song, and who knows where he was at in his head at the time in terms of his faith. But yeah, once it picks up, it is quite apocalyptic in that it, again, almost describes a kind of judgment day, like a reckoning, like a kind of end of times, just like Sign of the Times does. And like he does in, 1999, that song he did.
Yeah.
It is quite apocalyptic in its themes.
I remember Susan Rogers saying that whenever Prince is going through like a writing phase or a behavior phase that might be questionable or self-serving, he ends up writing a song like that, like a redemption song like this.
Right.
Oh,
And
wow.
so she called this a Sunday song, basically,
Okay.
because he's asking for redemption, basically. So if his songs have been sexual or lustful or something like that, this is where this is the
repents
response.
in a
Yeah,
song.
he repents through song. I mean, why not?
Who else would? If anyone's going to make every single move through song, it's going to be Prince,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. The song itself, though, again, it's really interesting. It doesn't change apart from just ascend. It just builds and builds and builds and builds.
Yeah, really, really interesting writer, man.
This would have been another song that would have been scrapped by anybody else, really, in the way that he played the drums, because he's playing to no click or anything. And it's they really vary in speed.
Well, the whole song speeds up as it goes, and that's again testament back to what Susan Rogers was saying about him not playing to a click.
Well, that's what she's
grooving.
She's talking about this song, and she's saying they speed up really badly, and he didn't care about that. It was all feel. He was hearing where the rest of the song was going in his head while laying down the drum track.
Thankfully, there's no session players who have to come in and play over that. You have that if he's going to play every instrument, then him being slightly out of time on certain things or not being linear with his shift in tempo, it doesn't matter. He knows in his head what it needs to sound like.
You're scaring me with the thought of tempo mapping that. If you had to sit down and actually figure out where the click track, can you imagine?
Because he's not doing it like 1 BPM at a time or wherever. He's just moving where he needs to. And that's what makes it beautiful. And that's what makes it hard to reproduce.
But again, that's a departure from any other song in the album. There's no other song like that. And
No.
I know we just touched on it before we started recording, but I said like this could be like an Alanis Morissette song or something, you know?
Yeah.
Or it could be...
When it's just him and the guitar on that live
it's
show,
like-
it could be anyone.
But it's mad as well to think that like this was all written over a relatively small period of time. I know there are albums in between, but he released albums so, back to back.
There was a good quote from Susan Rogers about his kind of writing process, and she said that the songs came out like a sneeze, one track after the next after the next. A couple of other quotes on his work ethic while we're here. Prince said himself in a radio interview in 1986, he says, "I work a lot. I'm trying to get a lot of things done very quickly so that I can stop working for a while. Everyone's afraid I'm going to die," was what he said in 1986.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Holy crap.
Susanna, his former fiance, said his work ethic was crazy. If you couldn't keep up, you were out. So everyone kind of acknowledged his relentless work ethic.
Questlove says the same in a Rolling Stones interview.
Really?
Yeah, after Prince had died. He's actually talking about lots of things about Prince and how Prince, despite maybe struggling with hip hop and stuff, was the embodiment of hip hop, and he outlines why, and I won't explain why. But in terms of work ethic, Questlove was like, whenever I was up at 5 a.m, I was like, why am I doing this? And then I'd remember, well, Prince is probably awake working now. So
Those are words to live by, man.
Yeah.
If you're ever feeling like you're overworking yourself, remember that Prince was working harder than you.
I'll see you boys at 5 a.m. tomorrow.
yeah.
See you at 5 tomorrow.
Cool article though. I'd recommend reading it.
We'll link to it.
Yeah.
As I said earlier on, this to me is a very much a performance album. And at this point in the album, we start going into some live versions of songs and you get a feel for how it was translated live. So let's move on to track 15, which is It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night, the live version. This was track 15. It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night.
Oh,
Let's bounce.
Hey-o. What's that from, bud? What's that from?
Oh, it's from The Wizard of Oz. I didn't know that until at this point.
There you go.
The
Yeah.
March of the Winkies.
Don't say it like
It
that.
is.
Straight face.
I thought it was from The Simpsons
Oh.
because it features in The Simpsons.
And now the moment everyone's been waiting for. The longest track of the album.
Thanks, Charlie.
But I don't know if it counts because it's a live version.
It's 9 minutes, is it? How many? How long is it? Sorry, Charlie, to step on your toes there. How long is it, mate?
9 minutes.
Oh, all right. Great. Well, yeah, there's a couple of live versions back to back here. Again, if you haven't watched that live concert film, just go watch it. It's fantastic. Everyone in the band plays an amazing part. And yeah, I think they were called the Love Sexy Band, this incarnation of Prince's band. You had obviously the Revolution. I think these guys were called the Love Sexy Band.
So that's what came next. Love Sexy. That's the next album.
Yeah. But that band in that incarnation was that. So you've
What
got
did he call you when you played the string hits?
the Big Sexy.
Oh.
Yeah. Or Big Tasty sometimes. It depended.
Isn't that a McDonald's burger?
Yeah, they named that after me as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
This is a kind of good insight into his live persona. tapping into that James Brown thing again of directing the band the whole way through. We had a comment actually on Instagram from Vivid Cole, who was talking about Sheila E. on drums, and he says, adore this version. Sheila E. absolutely killed her part. And there's a great bit in this where Sheila E. is the drummer and she's playing drums. And then she comes off the drum kit and Prince starts walking up towards the kit and they do like a secret handshake as they pass each other. And then Prince gets on drums and carries on the beat whilst Sheila E. comes down and takes center stage and does this whole rap part. And it's so good, like ridiculously good. Does this whole thing and then goes back and takes over the drum kit. And like all the choreography, everything is just flawless on that. It's one of my favorite bits of the whole thing.
This is his James Brown moment on the album though, isn't it?
Really is.
Yeah.
It creeps through on a lot of things, but this is like Get Up, I Feel Like a Sex Machine, and Funky President is in there, and there's so much stuff aside from the fact that he was commanding his band like he was James Brown. And the fact, he's moving around like James Brown as well.
James Brown is one of the best physical live performers ever to have existed. And
It was on the credits were Matt Fink and Eric Leeds on
Matt
this
Fink,
one.
the doctor, who is the who literally on stage is dressed as a doctor.
Yeah, but they were on the writing credits for this song.
Really?
Yeah, which is obviously
Big deal.
Big deal,
exactly.
yeah. I mean, Matt Fink goes back a long way in the Prince trajectory because he is a surviving member of the Revolution band as well.
The song itself it came out of a jam session, so he says on this podcast.
Really?
Yeah, it's the result of playing in the room, playing through sound checks and stuff. So it's interesting how he would have credited those two on it. I don't know how, it was
Maybe the jam started between those two and then Prince came out and jumped in and that was it.
Pretty controversial.
Whilst we're in that mode, then let's shout out that band from that live performance, because if they're not credited on the album, they can at least be credited on this podcast. So on drums, we had Sheila E. On bass guitar, we had Levi Cesar Jr. Guitar, we had Miko Weaver, another surviving member of the Revolution band. Matt Dr. Fink on keyboards, wearing his doctor's outfit. Bonnie Boyer on keys and also some backing vocals and throwing pedals around. Eric Leeds on saxophone. Matthew Atlanta Bliston on trumpet. And then you had Kat, who was the singer, choreographer, hype person, just giving it big ones. So yeah, amazing.
Incredible.
band.
I can't even imagine what that sounds like. Like what the bands must have sounded like would have been.
This is the thing though, like we're used to gigs of this era, of our lifetimes anyway. I wonder what the sound like, I wonder what the speakers sound like, I wonder what the sound system was like, I wonder what the live engineer was like,
Yeah, I mean, I imagine Prince demanded perfection, but also like, I don't think he was too precious about it. And this is an interesting story that involves you, Charlie. So me and Charlie were on a tour once in the US, and we did a show at First Avenue in Minneapolis, which was one of Prince's, he would play there a lot, and it was a kind of an institution for him. And overnight we arrived in the tour bus and we were led into an underground car park. Woke up in there and we're just like, right, here we go. And as you walk into the venue, this whole underground section of the venue was where Prince would come in when he would play. So it was all sealed off. And on the wall, as you walk through, there was a piece of the wall, some of the brick with a frame around it. And it just said Prince was here in Sharpie on the wall. And then as you go inside, it's this incredible venue. And throughout the day, I mean, we were there really early because we wouldn't load into the venue until like 4 p.m. And we were there, we'd woken up there. So we went inside for showers and stuff. And I got talking to the guy who runs and manages the venue and was talking to him about Prince. And he said that sometimes in Minneapolis, when the venue would have a dark day, which means there's no act on that particular day, Prince would call them up and be like, are you guys empty? And he'd be like, yep, you coming down? And he would come down with his band, secretly load into the venue and set up, and then just start playing a set. They would open the front doors of the venue, and anyone who was passing by would be let into the show until it was at capacity, and then he would just play. And he would play for hours and hours and hours.
So flipping cool.
Could you imagine walking down the street in Minneapolis and hearing Prince coming out of a venue and just people being like, you want to go in and watch that?
Why don't people do stuff like that all the time? I think that is the coolest thing.
Yeah, and he never left as like Minneapolis. That was his place. He would obviously go away for work and would record in different places, but all of his home studios, all of his roots were in Minneapolis.
The bus parking area is as big as the venue, pretty much.
It was massive. Yeah. And they had those sofas there and stuff. Yeah, but yeah, a really interesting venue and a really interesting part of his career. And it was a privilege to be around that and see. Every time he would get a golden record, he would send one to the venue. So they had hundreds of them on the walls that they'd been donated from Prince.
So when the Revolution was shelved and put to one side, when Prince was formulating the next band, I remember them being in Minneapolis. I remember a conversation that one of the guys was saying in one of these interviews, and he's saying he's in the bar in that venue, and nobody knows who this person is. I forget who it is who's talking. It might be one of the horn section. and they're talking about how Prince hasn't got anybody in from Minneapolis, and they're like, oh, what's the deal with that? Like, God, this new band is going to have to be really good. And this guy's like having a drink, and he's like shitting himself because he's just arrived in Prince's new setup. Sat in the what's the name of the place? Did you say
First Avenue?
First Avenue. Yeah, and he's just there like shitting himself over, and he's like goes back and he's like, well, I've just heard all these people talking shit on us, like because
it better be good.
It better be good.
It was also this was something I read as well, and this was in a forum by an unknown person, so who knows how true this is. But apparently, because Prince was known to be, let's not call it plagiarism, let's say inspired by other people, that there was a thing that would be uttered on the Minneapolis streets, which was like, be careful what you play around here in case it ends up on Warner Brothers Records.
Oh, no shit.
Whoa.
Yeah. What a little magpie.
What a little magpie. But yeah, so let's move on to track 16, which is Adore, because this is, I assume this to be a live version because it starts with a crowd noise, but sounds quite polished, so I don't really know that. But let's move on. This is track 16, Adore. That was track 16, and the final track, Adore.
What an ending.
Wow.
What an ending. Beautiful. Chris has just been saying off mic how much he loves that last little vocal line.
That whole line at the end is where he says, for all time I am with you. He sounds like a completely different singer.
Not going to sing it?
For all time I am with you.
Great. Nice. We did get a comment about this track from a guy called David Guan on Instagram, so thanks for dropping us a message. He says, Prince's live performances are more emotional than those on the album, but the only song he couldn't reproduce like the original is Adore, because the essence of the whole song is in the final narration and lyrics.
Here's a funny one off the back of Essence. Essence magazine in 2009 included the song in their list of 25 best slow jam songs of all time. So it's still getting, well, that was 2009, so it's a while back. But it's...
Charlie's useless and non-up-to-date facts.
Stay tuned for next week.
Keep coming back, please.
That was my favourite song on the album.
Oh, really? You romantic sod.
Flipping out. I mean, I'm a happily married man, but that might even be my,
You're what? Go on, answer.
Yeah, let's put him on the spot. Go on, Charlie.
When you renew your vows.
When we renew our vows, I might get that number in the old mix.
Cool. That was almost a...
That's weird as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's another amazing performance.
Shout out wifey.
I think after listening to it, again, it is definitely off that live version of the album.
Do you think that is a live version?
I think so now, listening to it back. I mean, it starts with crowd noise and it has some distance in the mics and stuff. For me, it does sound like that. It's got a bit of room reverb, but could not be. It could have just put crowd noise in. Who knows?
But doesn't it sound current? And doesn't it sound like it could be released today and do very well?
Yeah. And that's a testament to his writing, you know?
Like the theme of the song, I felt like this was his sexuality and spirituality coming together in one.
Nice.
How I felt.
Like that.
I felt like this was such a good ending to the
it's amazing. I think there have actually been lineups of the tracking of the album where It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night is actually the last track on the album, which does feel like it marks the end of an album. And it does so even so much for me that I forget how good Adore is until I get to it. I'm not expecting that to come back around again.
It does round off the album really well. You know, there was a lot of pressure on this album. The album before it, which was called Parade, which had Kiss on it, was the soundtrack to a film called Under the Cherry Moon, which did terribly. Did you hear about the awards, the Razzies?
That he won them all, probably.
Yeah, so this was the first feature film that Prince had starred and directed in entirely and written. He had some help on Purple Rain. There's an award ceremony called the Razzies where they basically pick out the worst of every film, the worst actor, the worst everything. And for his film Under the Cherry Moon, he pretty much cleaned up. He got worst actor, worst director, worst original song, and worst supporting actor in the same year in 1987.
He got worst actor and worst supporting actor.
He didn't get, but his film did.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, Jerome Benton, I think it was. He was the supporting.
That's a shame.
It's a shame. And so there was a lot of pressure on him to come out with something that wasn't as
royal shame,
as ragged. Yeah.
Well, what a couple of middle fingers up at the establishment.
He absolutely
so,
could.
Yeah, he didn't like Under the Cherry Moon, but here you go. Here's possibly the best album that's ever been made. So
yeah, take that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, not Take That. Prince.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. Wrong album. That's next week. So yeah, let's maybe round it off there. And
Oh, do you know, if you said, I guess now it's time for me to give up, that would have been the perfect Take That lyric.
yeah, it would have, but I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of terrible boy bands like you do. Right then, so yeah, let's wrap up there. So I hope everyone enjoyed that, and I hope we did that album the justice it deserves, because it is a phenomenal album and something that has solidified Prince as one of the best in my mind, definitely. I don't know about you guys.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I want to go and do the rest of Prince.
Ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, so this is obviously Between the Tracks, and we are trying to make this as much of an immersive experience for the audience as possible. So if you have any thoughts about this episode or anything like that, if you go to our website, which will be linked in our bios, and you can go to www.tracks.show, there is a comment section at the bottom of the page for this episode where you can tell us what you thought. If we made any mistakes and you want to put some corrections in, also feel free to do that. As always, we like to support the artist as much as we can, even posthumously in this case. So all the links to Prince's music will be in our bio and will be on our website. If you want to go there and listen to it, if you're listening to this album on Spotify, when you listen to the songs in between our segments, all that money goes to Prince. We don't capitalize off anyone's art. That's something that's quite close to us. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed this one. Next week will be my choice again.
Oh, yeah?
It was recommended to me by a friend who I first toured with, and he gave me a couple of really good albums. His name was Paul Musgrave, and he gave me a really good couple of albums that kind of shaped a new realm of musical listening for me. One of those albums, the one I'm going to bring in next week, is going to be an album by a band called Wilco, and the album is called Yankee Hotel Foxtrot.
Hot damn.
Nice.
Hot damn. Either of you ever heard that?
Nope.
Cool.
Probably heard it once and hasn't registered.
There you go. Well, yeah, so that's a band fronted by Jeff Tweedy, really amazing songwriter, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Can't
hopefully.
wait. Can't wait.
So,
If
yeah.
it's as much fun as this one's been, I cannot wait to get back here.
It might not be as much fun as this album, but it's definitely a poignant and beautifully put together album. So yeah, as always with the episode, we try and bring in a different beer each week because we like to drink beers. Get the beers in, bud.
Thank
And
God.
we always try and make it somewhat related to the album. It's hard to find Minneapolis beers, or it's hard to find beers with Prince in the name. So we got 4 cans of beer, and all of them are pink or purple or peach and black.
One is a peach sour.
And it's a peach infused beer, yeah. So let's crack those out, mate. Give us some of that. There's the ASMR again, thanks.
Oh, yay.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, it's good, isn't it?
Nice. Well, cheers, boys.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
And cheers to Prince.
Cheers to
Thank
Prince.
you for an incredible body of work, and we've appreciated it.
Beers are from Beercraft in Bath again.
Beercraft in Bath, yep. We're racking up a pretty bill in there.
Pretty
grabbing
hefty
beers
tab.
for this, yeah.
That's fine. They're going to give us a discount very shortly. We've had
Hopefully.
a bit of Tiny Rebel now, which are a Welsh brewery. We've had a bit of Polly's. And where's my last can? Oh, talk amongst yourselves. And we've had a bit from Yonder as well.
Over yonder.
Yonder.
Well, Yonder is over yonder because it's over in bloody Radstock in some.
Oh, get on,
Oh,
Vernon.
ratters.
Get on.
All blinding beers because we've been tasting them along the way.
That one's 8%, so that's going to be pretty blinding for sure.
on the other side, Carl.
See you later,
See you boys at 5 a.m.
So before we go, I just want to, again, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you so much for the support, because the listenership and the uptake on this has been more than we could have hoped for. So yeah, really appreciate you all coming back and tuning in. As we always say, this is a book club, so please, you've got until next Monday to go away, listen to the album, give us any thoughts you want, just comment on Instagram, Reddit, send us a message on the website. Let us know what you think about Wilco's Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. Until then, everyone take care and look after yourselves in this wild world. My name's Carl Lewis, this is Chris Bunt. Jesus, and this is Charlie Fowler.
Cheers and
We'll
gone.
see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to Between the Tracks, a book club but for music. Written, produced and presented by Carl Lewis, Chris Bunt and Charlie Fowler. Intro and outro music by Ross Chapman and Samson Jasso. Artwork by Jim Hurd at Twin Fin Design Co. Thanks to our friends at Sennheiser for the support. If you've enjoyed this album and can afford to buy it directly from the artist, links have been added to our website.
Alright, yeah, so just wondering, Prince, right? Yeah? He's brilliant, yeah, but which country was he the prince of?
Okay. That's from
Oh.
Iron Fist. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Iron Fist.
Do you have an answer to that one, Charlie?
Sexylvania?
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
No?
Princeton?
Princeton
New
will do.
Jersey, that will do.
Princeton Iron Fist is the
Artist formerly known as.